If you've stopped masturbating in your later years, I need to tell you something that may shock you. Your body could already be quietly breaking down without you realizing it. I've seen men in their 60s and 70s who eat well, exercise daily, take their medications faithfully, yet still struggle with fatigue, sleepless nights, and declining confidence. What they don't know is that by abandoning one simple act of self-care, they've cut off a natural system that keeps the prostate healthy, balances hormones, and even protects the brain. I'm Dr. Moit Kara, a urologist and men's health specialist. With over 30 years of experience helping men navigate the physical and emotional transitions of aging. I've worked with thousands of older men who felt ashamed or confused about their changing desires. But I want you to hear this from a doctor who spent this life studying it. Masturbation isn't a teenage habit. It's a maintenance tool your body still depends on even now. Most men think that stopping sexual activity means they've outgrown that part of life. But here's the paradox. By giving it up, you're actually speeding up the very decline you're trying to avoid. The absence of release doesn't make you stronger. It makes your organs stagnate, your hormones slip, and your mind grow dull. So stay with me, because in the next few minutes, I'll show you what really happens when you stop masturbating and how understanding this truth could restore your energy, your sleep, your mood, and your dignity. What you're about to learn might completely change how you think about aging. Before we begin, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another men's health tip designed to keep you strong, sharp, and confident as you age. And I'd love to hear from you. If this topic resonates with you, type 1 in the comments. If it doesn't, type 0 and tell me what you'd like me to cover next. Now, let's get into the truth. Most men never hear from their doctors. The first thing that starts to change when you stop masturbating isn't your desire, it's your prostate. This small gland quietly suffers when it's ignored, and the effects can ripple through your entire body. 1. Your prostate starts to stagnate. When I talk to my older patients about sexual health, most of them look surprised when I mention the prostate. They expect me to talk about medications, not masturbation. But the truth is, this tiny gland between your bladder and penis has more control over your comfort, energy, and confidence than you might imagine. And what happens to it when you stop masturbating can quietly shape the rest of your health. I once had a patient named Robert, 72, a retired engineer who still played tennis twice a week. He came into my office frustrated that he couldn't sleep throughout the night anymore. He was waking up 5, sometimes 6 times to urinate. He had no infection, no major enlargement, no obvious disease. Yet his prostate was congested, heavy, tender, full. When I asked about his sexual routine, he smiled awkwardly and said, "Doc, it's been a long time since I bothered with that." What he didn't realize was that this very decision weighed the reason he felt old. You see, your prostate is like a small factory that never stops producing fluid. When you ejaculate, that fluid is flushed out, clearing waste and reducing genital pressure. But when there's no release, no way for that fluid to move, starts to stagnate, the gland swells slightly, blood flow slows, and inflammation builds. You may start noticing changes. A weaker stream, a heavier bladder, that lingering pressure right below the abdomen, and the growing annoyance of nighttime trips to the bathroom. It's not just age, it's your body trying to tell you that something natural has been ignored. What fascinates me after 30 years in urology is how quickly the body responds once this natural rhythm is restored. When men like Robert reintroduce regular mindful ejaculation, even once or twice a week, their symptoms often ease within weeks. Urination becomes smoother. The sense of heaviness lifts. Some even report more energy during the day, as if their body finally exhaled. That's because ejaculation doesn't just empty fluid. It improves circulation, reduces inflammation, and helps hormones like testosterone move more freely through your system. It's a small act with a surprisingly large ripple effect. Now, I know some men carry guilt or embarrassment around this topic. They see masturbation as something childish or unnecessary. But from a medical point of view, it's a natural function, just like stretching your muscles or taking deep breaths. You wouldn't call breathing shameful. And yet both serve the same purpose: to move, to clear, to keep life flowing. When you ignore that flow, your body begins to resist you. You feel heavier, slower, older than you really are. In Robert's case, what started as simply discomfort could have grown into chronic inflammation or even an infection if left unchecked. The prostate, when stagnant, becomes a perfect environment for bacterial buildup over time. That can affect not just your urination but also your ability to perform sexually and your overall vitality. That's why I tell my patients ejaculation is not about youth. It's about maintenance. It's the same reason we encourage exercise and hydration. It keeps the system clean and efficient. So, if you've quietly given up on self-release, thinking it no longer matters, I urge you to reconsider. Your prostate is asking for movement, not for indulgence but for health. It's a part of your body that depends on attention, not neglect. And once you restore that connection, you'll begin to feel the difference, not just physically, but emotionally. Lighter, more in control, more alive. Because when your prostate starts to stagnate, it's only the beginning. There's another part of your body that suffers quietly too, your brain. And what happens there might surprise you even more. Your brain loses its spark too. Your brain loses its spark. There's a moment I'll never forget from my clinic years ago. A man named Thomas, 68 years old, sat across from me looking embarrassed. He wasn't there for a sexual problem. At least that's what he thought. He said, "Doc, I can't focus anymore." I walk into a room and forget why I'm there. I used to be sharp. Now I feel like I'm fading. His words hit me deeply because I knew exactly what was happening, and it wasn't just aging. It was chemistry, brain chemistry. When a man stops masturbating, he doesn't just stop a physical act. He interrupts a biological rhythm that's been supporting his brain for decades. Every orgasm, every moment of self-release triggers a cascade of neurotransmitters. Dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin that keep your brain alive and bright. These chemicals are the signals that protect memory, improve concentration, and lift mood. They are nature's antidepressants and memory boosters. When they vanish for weeks, months, or years, the brain begins to lose that natural rhythm. You don't feel broken, but you feel slower, duller, less connected to life. Thomas told me he felt like he was living in a fog. His wife noticed too. He had stopped laughing as much, stopped dreading, and even stopped caring about his favorite chess club. It wasn't just the loss of joy. It was the loss of the small bursts of dopamine that once kept his mind alert and curious. When he finally shared that he hadn't been sexually active in almost 2 years, I knew we'd found one of the missing pieces. See, dopamine isn't only about pleasure, it's about motivation. When that system goes quiet, even simple tasks start to feel heavy. Without the hormonal pulse that comes from sexual release, the brain loses some of its internal drive. That's why so many men tell me, "I'm not depressed, but I'm not really living either." It's a kind of emotional flatline that sneaks in quietly, disguised as aging. I suggested that Thomas reintroduce gentle self-intimacy, not as a goal for pleasure, but as an exercise in vitality. Within a few weeks, he told me something remarkable. "Doc, I feel like myself again." He was remembering names, sleeping better, and smiling more. That's not magic, that's neurology. Each release replenished dopamine, stabilized adoration, and reminded his brain that it was still alive and engaged from a medical perspective. Sexual release is one of the simplest and most natural ways to stimulate your brain's reward circuitry. It doesn't replace intellectual challenge, exercise, or nutrition, but it amplifies them. It's like opening a window in a stuffy room. Suddenly, the air moves and everything feels clearer. That's what I've seen in countless men. When they're sexual, rhythm returns, their thoughts sharpen, their confidence rises, and their sense of self brightens again. It's easy to underestimate how connected your mind and body really are. Many men in their 60s and 70s tell me they feel mentally frozen without knowing why. Once we talk honestly, it becomes clear. Their brain has been waiting for stimulation, for that release that reminds it to produce balance and energy. When I look back at Thomas, I see a man who rediscovered himself not through medicine, but through reconnection with his body, with his chemistry, with his life. And if your mind feels dull, disconnected, or tired lately, don't rush to blame old age. Sometimes the fog isn't age at all. It's absence, because when your brain loses its spark, your emotions follow soon after. And what happens next can quietly steal FedJoy out of your days in ways you never expected. 3. Heightened depression. And heightened depression and emotional numbness. Not long ago, a 71-year-old patient named Harold sat across from me, high-sized, distant, voice low. He said, "Doc, I don't feel anything anymore. Not sadness, not joy. I just wake up, go through the motions, and wait for the day to end." His blood work was fine. His chart was healthy. But what he